African oral tradition
Hmm?
is something that the oral tradition is something that you pass it down. I forget the term for. I've heard it. It's not the griot, but it's who does the. It's some. I want to say it's in West Africa where they have a storyteller
Yeah,
teller.
that's the grill. The grill is yeah, that's a storyteller.
The
Yeah.
griot, right?
Hmm.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
griot.
Yeah.
And you know, I've often when I first learned of that term and hearing about it, it made me, you know, I said I was a pretty observant child and I was very inquisitive. So I asked lots of questions. My parents would tell me to go look in the book. And
Yeah.
that's why I would crawl up on the shelf and look at the encyclopedias and the
Mhm.
National Geographics that we had. My parents being school teachers, you would think that, you know, they made sure that all of us had like great grades. When we
Yes.
applied ourselves, our grades were great. But I was inquisitive. I asked lots of questions, and sometimes what I read wasn't satisfying enough of an answer. So I would ask more and more questions. I was a student that kept my hand in the air, and I think I'm still like that now. I ask lots of questions, and then I listen. Then you have to take time to listen as well, and that's one of the things that I think my parents and my grandmother, they never, my parents are still living, my grandparents are deceased, but
Mhm.
I sat at their feet. I can see it now. I sat at my grandmother's feet, Wilhelmina Martin Prince, a school teacher, and I remember sitting at her feet and I hung on to every word that she said. I would braid her hair and play in her hair, but listen to her tell stories. And they talk all the time about not just the restaurant, but all the different loved ones and our family members that had gone on before us. And you know, we would go through the picture album. Every single time we would go to her house, we pull the photo album out and we just, who is this? Who is this? Who is this? Who is this? And now like that's passed on to me and then now to my daughter. She asks questions like that all the time too. So you can't forsake oral tradition. You have to keep talking. And I want to see our African American community keep talking.
Yes.
We gotta, we can't just swipe all the time. Can't
Hmm.
just swipe left or right. We gotta keep talking to one another and communicating with our neighbors, communicating in the community and doing what you all are doing, what the Builder Project is doing is part of that extension of the oral tradition, just on a different
Yes.
platform. I'm
Yes.
sorry, I just need to throw that in because it hit me in my
Yes.
spirit
Sure.
to say that. So I'm proud of y'all. Y'all
Thank
are doing a good job because you're being inquisitive by researching
you.
and
Hmm.
talking to one another and then digging in and doing deeper dives to vet the awardees that you are or the honorees that you guys are giving these awards to. Good
Yes.
job.
Thank you. Thank you. And you know,
You're welcome.
when we first started doing that, just to respond to what you just said,
Hmm.
it was truly just a vision. The vision was that if we could just get the stories out beyond of sort of what people see every day, to hear the backstory, as we call it. And I
Yes.
remember the very first time we did it, we had no idea. We had no idea how we were going to do it. And truthfully, I remember we had rented the hotel space that we didn't even know how we were going to pay for. We were trying to figure out
Yeah.
how we were going to pay for this because we didn't know. And but something happened. Something happened that we never expected to happen as people one by one stood up and started telling their stories. And some of these people were people that were very well known, but nobody had really heard their stories yet. They were people who had done tremendous things, but nobody really knew how they got there. And
Mm.
one by one, they started telling the stories. And as each one talked, you could see the tears almost in the voice. It was as if, I think people who come from church backgrounds will understand what I'm trying to describe
Oh
here.
yeah.
As if
Oh
some
yeah.
spirit had just come over them and we were all just overcome with this. It was, I think, I knew then that there's something very powerful in these stories and that
Right.
we need to hear these stories. We need to see who we are and where we came from and to bring all of that forward. This was a point of
Right.
doing that. And so as the years have gone by now, increasingly, those stories have grown every year, every year, every year. And people come and they tell me after they told those stories, what it did for them as well. So we're really, really proud of that. And just to let you know, getting ready for us, we're leading into our Black History Month. one of the things that we decided we were going to do as a part of the whole Villager Awards, since we couldn't do our regular Villager Awards this year. But for Black History Month, we have what we're doing called 28 Days, 28 Stories. And
Okay.
every day will be a day for one of you. So there's the Kim Prince Day, okay? There's this one's day. This one, everyone gets a day. And on
Okay.
the day, we will, number one, release the videos, not just for, they'll be on YouTube and the other platforms, but also to the schools in the area, to students, so that they can, now we're developing like little workbooks, and you'll be in contact with everybody about that, so that they can really see and hear all of you and hear these stories and begin to identify with that, because that is not what they're seeing and hearing now. They're not really feeling that. We want them to feel this, to feel that we all are part of a collective whole here, and we have these collective stories. So I really want to thank you and all of our other Villager Award recipients who have really taken the time to just share your stories with us, because that means so much more than any of us can really imagine. And I think for too long, many of us have been very silent about our stories, and so they're powerful stories. So I want to ask you now, as we sort of bring this to a close, just thinking of that, if you were giving advice to any young person sort of coming along behind you who maybe don't really know their stories at all, really maybe haven't had that opportunity to hear it, or just haven't had that opportunity, what kind of advice would you give to them? Because they're the starting point now in many ways. So what would you say to them?
I would tell young people to that they have a voice and somebody's listening. It may not look like they're actively listening, but somebody's always watching. Somebody's always. I just did a workshop. I was a panelist with LA Unified School District a couple weekends ago, and they had a couple hundred young ladies who were students in the LA Unified School District, and they invited me to be a part of the panel and talk about the business, and the young people got to ask us questions. The majority of the questions that they asked us were in the tone or the theme of trying to overcome insecurity, freeing themselves from negative circles, thinking that they can wonder whether they can achieve or not because it has certain circumstances like money being an obstacle to them achieving their dreams. And as myself and some of the other panelists who I was in awe by, because they were Army lieutenants and captains and surgeons, they're book authors and stuff. And I'm like, why'd y'all invite me? I'm just a restaurant owner. Why'd y'all invite me to be on this panel? But, just all those young people that were asking us questions, the charge was to empower them with just enough positive energy to push them into their destiny. Like, just no matter what the idea is, write it down. That's one thing I share with them. And I would tell young people now, whatever your idea is, I don't care what it sounds like, share it with your mama and they may shoot it down. Share it with somebody, your best friend, and they look at you crazy and say, oh girl, somebody already did that, or that's never gonna work. But it's your idea, it's your idea. And we're created in the image and the likeness of God, right? We're created in the image and the likeness of God. And God is big. God is sovereign. That's what I believe. I believe he's so sovereign. He so reigns over everything that if he created little old me in his image and his likeness, that although I may not have his exact mind, he gave me a piece of his. And so I encourage young people to take that little piece that he gives you and get a pen and a piece of paper and start writing down those ideas. No idea is too small. I don't care whether you think, the the fact that they already have cars that exist, but you wake up in the middle of the night from a dream about a car. Well, ask God to give you more detail to it. That's what I did with this business. I know that my ancestors had already started a business, but I'm like, what more can I do with it? Because God doesn't give us dreams and visions for us to just, take the covers and just go back to sleep and do nothing. No, you're supposed to get up and do something with it, because he trusts you with the things that he gives you. If he calls you to be able to do it, he will equip you to be able to get it done.
Yes.
And so I remember sleeping on my dream. I remember sleeping on it. I remember thinking that I would never be able to accomplish what I have right now, but I got the keys.
Yes.
And it took work, and it took some years. But it didn't take as many years as it may have taken other people. And the other thing that I would encourage them to do is to, like, not just get that pen and paper, because I keep a pen and paper by my bedside. For years I've done that. I would wake up with very elaborate, very detailed dreams, almost colorful dreams like that. And I would write everything down. And I tell you, I promise you, I have seen so many of those things that I wrote down come to pass in my lifetime so far. It encouraged me, some good, some bad. Some of it was good, some of it was bad. But I'm glad that God has chosen me to be able to download dreams into, because he knows I got faith expectations. So that's my second E, encouraging you to be empowered. But I want to encourage people to also have expectation.
Yes.
Expectation, not living up to somebody else's expectation, but you're setting expectation for yourself. You can achieve what you wrote down. Yes. And even though you may have gaps in what you write down, it may not all connect, it may not all fit. It may take you 10, 12 years to figure out how you're going to get to that, because that's what happened for me. I did 22 years in the television entertainment industry. I was an executive assistant, I was a coordinator, I worked at Walt Disney, I worked for Warner Brothers, I worked at the Paramount lot, I worked on the Sony lot, I worked at the CBS lot. And I always tried to figure out, Lord, around the world, but you have me sitting in a room with the likes of Danny DeVito, that was taking cookies off my plate, in the same room working with Tom Hanks, or Robin Williams, the late Robin Williams, John Ritter. You know, I can name a lot of celebrities. I was never in awe of who they were. I was in awe of what they did. They worked hard. I remember doing a photo shoot when I was working for ABC Television with Gregory Hines, and only 2 months later he passed away. And I was so, thank you, Lord, for allowing me to work with him as he was going out. Yes. It was one of his last scripted projects, as a matter of fact. And those are just a few of the people that I've had a chance to work with, and different award shows and red carpet events and all that stuff. And while some may be thinking like, oh, you got a life of lots of cameras and lights and action and all that kind of thing, but that didn't get me up and going every morning. But I set an expectation of myself to perform and do my job with excellence wherever I went. I wanted to not just do it because I was getting a check or I was getting paid. That's something that I teach my crew here. We call it our work family. And all of our work family members have a name badge that says cousin on it. Yeah. And so when I brought them on board, one of the things I told them, I said, I'm going to empower you. I'm going to educate you the best way I can. I'm going to encourage you the best way I know how. And the resources that I don't have access to, I will make sure that you get connected to it, because I don't want you to be cooking for the next 10 years. I don't want you to be washing dishes for the next 10 years. That's the empowering part of what Hotville exists in our Black and brown community. And although our community is changing rapidly, I see that it's important for our young people to not just have a job, but to set a career path and give them some stepping stones to be able to find out where they're going in life. I keep running into young people who just don't care anymore. And I'm trying to figure out, like, well, why did I care so much? What makes my circumstances different and my outcomes what they are? You know what I mean? So I hope that young people that come across my path, feel some friction. And I'm going to give them friction. I'm the type of boss that questions. That's me asking questions all the time. I question them when they have ideas, or they start talking idea centric. I like to create a little friction to get them to thinking. All right, you need to write that down. I like to hand them out. I have one particular young person who works for me. He's got a clothing line. Yeah. I remember when he first mentioned his clothing line to me, I had no idea that he had. He didn't put it on his application. He didn't mention it in his interview. But he's been working at this clothing line for a while. He started asking for some time off so he can get his packages out. And I was like, when do you mean get your packages out? He pulled his phone out and he showed me some very cool artistic designs that he puts on t-shirts and shorts and jackets and stuff. And I was so impressed by that. And although he's one of my best workers, and I sure hate to lose him, he's supposed to move forward with that. And I said, okay, what am I supposed to do as a supervisor to help encourage him to move forward with that dream? I don't want him to think that all he can make is $14, $50, or $15 an hour, when he could be making $500,000 a year or more. Yeah. Because his designs are great. They're really great. There's an audience out there that's looking to wear, as the kids say, rock his clothing line. And so I remember sharing it with my daughter. She's 18 years old, and she was like, "Ooh, that's nice." And I shared it with him. I shared the feedback with him, and he was really impressed to the fact that she liked what he was designing. And so anyway, all that to say that, no idea is a bad idea. Encouraging, empowering, educating young people is what they need. They need something that they can trust. They need a safe place to know that when they do open their mouths with an idea, that it's not just going to be shot down. School systems are failing them. That home situations and home scenarios. A lot of young people don't have the luxuries that some of us grew up with, if you want to call it a luxury. I grew up in the country, and so I don't know what kind of luxury that was, but it's just like not taking for granted anything. Being thankful, being grateful, the gift of life itself. To wake up and be able to inhale and exhale. You don't get to choose that on your own, because it's appointed for man once to die. And after that, judgment. So you don't ever know when it's going to be your last breath. So while you're still able to breathe, do everything you can to help somebody else. And that's the other thing that we teach here. While we're empowering and educating and encouraging young people, and employing them, the other thing that we're doing is putting them out in the community and making them give back whatever they can, even if it's just your time. Time is valuable. Your treasure is also valuable. Your talent is also valuable. So giving your time, talent, and treasure, sowing that back into the community that helped raise you, is your obligation and duty. Something that I share with our work crew. So any young person that gets the opportunity to cross paths with me, and if they get an opportunity to hear this Vilger Award ceremony, or these interviews from these panelists or these awardees, what do we call Vilger honorees?
Sometimes honorees, sometimes awardees. We use all those terms.
Yeah. Well, I hope that when you create your booklet, that as they turn the pages, that the words leap at them, and they connect with the images and the words, and that they read, and that whatever they read about all of the award honorees, that they have the ability. Actually, I give you permission to put some contact information for those young people to be able to actually contact me. I don't mind that. I'm all about mentorship. Being an example is so very, very important. Young people don't have the proper examples in front of them anymore. They've got scantily clad, curvy, letting it all hang out, smoke it up, be high, stay high, fly high. The music and the lyrics, and I don't have anything against music. I'm not saying that, but it's just like when young people, when that's all they can recite,
right.
They can't remember simple math, but they can literally sing the lyrics to a whole rap album.
Yes.
But they can't do simple math. They can barely, can have a hard time reading the order on a ticket, but they can recite the lyrics to a whole album. That's mind-boggling to me. And so I want to empower young people to get out and stretch themselves to really reach. And it's going to take effort to reach their goals. It's going to take some effort. It takes application. It means you got to get up early. I told the young people that were on the LA Unified call how early I get up in the morning. And they're like, what? Yeah, 5 o'clock, 5 a.m. My restaurant doesn't open till 11. It's going to take us about an hour and a half to prep and get the restaurant open. But I'm up at 5 a.m. and I'm taking care of me. I get up, I pray. I try to work out a couple of days a week. I go for a walk or a run. That's something I created a routine for myself. Why? Because I saw my parents do it. I remember my parents getting up and praying together. And I thought that was just, I was in awe of that. And to this day, my parents actually getting ready to celebrate their 55th wedding anniversary. Still together. It can be done.
Yeah.
And there's so many things that will make young people think that can't be done. That's yesteryear. Nobody does that anymore. Nobody gets married anymore. Nobody's, you can't have a 2-parent household. Yes, you can if you want to. So anyway, all that, yes, times are changing, but times are what you make of it. And if you're faithful in your efforts to do better, you'll see your life become better. And then don't just be selfish about making your own life better, make somebody else's life better. That's my philosophy. That's my school of thought, and I live by that. I get up and I help do for others. So this is what I want to do for you, Dr. Gloria, and the Village Awards.
Yes.
I sent you an email. I sent you an email a couple weeks ago, remember?
Yes.
I said I wanted to give you something, and I asked you if you got Zelle or whatever, right?
Oh, yes. Thank you.
And I never forgot that, because I wanted to make a pledge. This is my pledge. My pledge is $100 every month for the next 10 months. Do the math. That's $1,000 pledge, right? So I'm pledging from my business to you $1,000 pledge. And I will start that today. And absolutely, because I know that the work that you put into this award ceremony. When I attended in Long Beach, it was beautiful. And the food was great. And it was a classy affair.
Yes.
In the middle of the afternoon, it was a classy affair. I look at the pictures that I took from that event every day because it's right by the bed. And I get up and I look at that. And even though that wasn't my award, Mr. Doolin, Mr. Doolin was getting an award, but I got a copy of that picture, and I thoroughly enjoyed participating just by being present and learning. And I remember shedding some tears for the people who were receiving awards that were there at the table with me, and learning who they were and their stories. So again, I applaud what you're doing. I stand by what you're doing. Therefore, I'm a pledge my commitment to support it.
Thank you.
And I hope those little dimes do something positive you're able to do something positive. You're able to take the interns out to lunch.
Yes,
You're
yes,
able
yes.
to print an extra 10 booklets or something. But whatever you do with it, I hope that my pledge helps you keep your lights on,
Yes,
and keeping the light on uh, is not just you paying a utility bill, but like literally keep the light on, because your
yes.
organization is shining a light and
Mhm.
people need to see.
Yes,
And
yes,
those young people will soon learn that people are listening and watching.
yes,
So
yes,
yes.
yes. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for your story. We always thank you, anybody, for our donations. We're really grateful for that. I want you to know one of the things about us is that any donations that we receive are plowed right back into the projects. I mean, we don't keep anything; it all gets plowed right back into that. It lets us
Mhm.
meet larger, reach larger numbers of people, particularly young people. We just plow it right back in, and so that it becomes a seed that just keeps growing, and that's what we want to happen with that. So I
Mhm.
wanted to say thank you for being with us once again. We're sort of coming to a close here now. To our audience out there, I am sure you've gotten so much out of this, because we have. I've been my whole afternoon has now been enriched with the story here that Kim Prince has brought with us. I have been inspired by that. Uh, I can hardly wait for those of you that will be seeing this, as I mentioned, during Black History Month, and even before then, some of you will be seeing it, but you will have an opportunity then to really sort of interact with it, really, because there are a lot of conversations we feel that will come out of this, and we hope that there will be a lot of people who will be really inspired with this. And Kim, we will make sure we get your contact information as a part of our booklet too, so that they'll know that. And because we're really bringing our stories alive, and bringing our stories alive not only to each other, but to wider audiences as well. So we think that this is really very, very important. So until then, I'm going to be signing off for now. And I look forward to our next guest, who will be coming on just right behind Kim here. And we're just looking forward to all of you getting to know these stories. And thank you so much for seeing us. So I'm signing off. Bye bye for now.